Hello and welcome to my fourth video on business process improvement. My name is Andrew Visser. In the first video, we talked a little bit about why you might need to do this. The second video was some tips and tricks on how to analyze your processes. And the third video, we covered a few ideas and thoughts around what you might need to consider when designing a process. In this video, we will be talking about how to implement the process, how to get it out there, get it used by your teams, some things to think about when you're doing that, and what you will need to do once it's actually out there. So in the last video, we covered design. You've now got a design, you've got a new process that you want to implement. First thing to do when you're doing this is to look at, do you have all the pieces you need? Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right people? Do they have the right skills? And what's the time frame for doing this? And how are you going to do that? All of this needs to be planned out and to be agreed with all of your stakeholders, not just the team that's actually going to be doing this process, but all of those that benefit from whatever it is that team does, that actually get the value. Remember, in the earlier videos, we talked a bit about value creation. So with the tools, have you got everything? Do you have all the pieces that you need? Do you have the right tools for the job? Have they been customized or integrated in order to work with the new process? Is there anything that you need to do for that? The people and the skills, maybe you need to give them some training. Certainly they will need some training on the new process. You'll need to go through it with them. You will probably want to do a few test runs if that's at all possible. Doubly so if this is a big bang launch rather than an incremental launch. What do I mean by that? So an incremental launch, you do a bit 1 week, you might do a bit a couple of weeks later, and so on. With a big bang launch, you've got to do it all at once. Not ideal, and if you can avoid it, that's great, but unfortunately quite often you can't. You have to do it all at one time, and in that case it's important to do a few test runs, get people used to how it's going to work, show people what the inputs are needed, what the outputs will look like, what the monitoring will be, how the communication will work, all of that, get people through that. That can take a lot of time. That's a lot of one-on-one or one-to-small group work. It's also quite useful to do a big presentation to everybody so that everybody can see the whole process from one end to the other and then ask any questions that they've got around that. Timing of all of this. I mentioned a minute ago that you can try and avoid to do a big bang launch. If you're going to do that, pick a date and just go for it. I think that's the only way to do it. Sometimes you just have to sort of just have some faith and it's all going to work fine and that there won't be any major issues. Then pick a time for doing that. If it's incremental, pick the dates that's going to be. You will have some issues. I pretty much guarantee it. Nothing ever really works exactly the way you expect it. You will probably need to make a few tweaks as you go through that, but that's okay. That's what happens. Once it's out there, again, you're probably going to have to make changes. The world isn't perfect. The process you've come up with is not perfect, I'm sorry, but it will be better than it was, and you can always make some little changes as you go along. If you're unsure about how to get started with any of this that I've talked about, there is a link below in the comments for you to book a free 30-minute call with me to do a little bit of process therapy, and let's talk about how we can make your business better. As I always say, if you're not talking about these problems, you're never going to fix them.